This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
So the seeds of this trip began 2 years ago when we were in Mezbej. We were thinking, okay, where would we go next? We were thinking, where's Rabbi Hersh of Zidichoiv buried? So he's buried in the Ukraine, and that was the beginning of this trip. And that's, in a way, the end of our trip this year, Tafshin Pei Aleph. Last trip, Tafshin Ayin Tes, ended by the Kever of the Malbim. This year we end at the Kever of the Rabbi of the Malbim. Rabbi Hersh of Zidichoiv taught the Malbim Kabbalah. Rabbi Hersh of Zidichoiv is known as the Sar Beis HaZohar. As the Bnei Yissaschar writes about his Mechutan, he calls him Mechutani. I basked in the shade of his refuge, that Leiv Harav, the heart of this great Rav, Mavis b'Chachma HaKadosh, is frighteningly scary in the great wisdom of Chachmas HaKabbalah. Kemat lo'ro'isi v'lo shamati b'doreinu dugmasai. I have never seen or heard anyone who equates to Rabbi Hersh of Zidichoiv, Asher Hemik b'Chachma Nefla Kamayu, that delve deeply into the Chachma of Kabbalah. There is nobody like Rabbi Hersh in the knowledge of the Zohar HaKadosh. He very much introduced the study of Kabbalah into the regular yeshivas. He wrote a perush on the Zohar Ateres Tzvi. He wrote a perush called Sur Meirava Asei Tov. Legend has it that his father and mother, as they were getting older, they said, how are we going to get to Olam Haba? What are we going to take to the next world? And the father said, what do you mean? B'mesila na'ala. B'mesila is Rosh Tevas. Beis, Beirish. Beirish was Rabbi Yisachar Beirish of Zidichoiv, the oldest son. Mem, Moshe. Moshe of Sambor, their second son. Samach, Sender, Alexander Sender of Kamarna, the father of the Kamarna, the Heichal Bracha. Lamed, Lipa, Rabbi Kodesh of Lipa Misambar. And Hey, Rabbi Hersh of Zidichoiv. Rabbi Hersh, as we mentioned, was the Rebbe of the Malbim. The Minchas Elazar brings him down the halacha. If, let's say, you have a mother-in-law who has the same name as a daughter-in-law, we know that's an issue based on the Tzava of Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid. However, says the Munkatcher, if there's one difference in one of the names, it's permitted, as Rabbi Hersh himself took as a son-in-law, the Rabbi Kosh of Radzil, his name was Yehuda Tzvi, and his name was Tzvi Hersh, as long as one of the names is different. Now, we also mentioned, the Munkatcher says at the end of the life of the Zidichoiver, he was a goyses, and he said, give money to the tzedakah of Rameir Balanes. Why Rameir Balanes? Because Rameir is choshesh for the miyot. So even though Roiv goysesim lamisa, most people in that situation, they would not survive, but Rameir is always concerned for the miyot. Some chidushim nairam of the Zidichoiver. Number one, he says, in the Sefer Surmei Rava Asei Tov, Eloikim is 86 midas hadin. How are you mamtik the dinim? Peleg Eloikim. You split Eloikim. What's Peleg Elokim? Elokim is 86. 43. 43. 43 is Rachamim. 43 is Havaya Toiv. Toiv Hashem. If you really look at the Midas Hadin and you recognize this is not Midas Hadin, it's all the Toiv Hashem. That's Mamtik the Dinim. That sweetens the Dinim. That's, by the way, amazingly, the longest pasuk in Tanakh is in Megillas Esther, the pasuk of the rescinding of the Gzeir of Haman. How many words? 43, Toiv Hashem. So, amazing thing. Mizmar L'Soida has how many words? 43 words in Mizmar L'Soida. Amazingly, Mizmar L'Soida has 43 words. Another Chiddush of Tzvi Hersh of Zidichoiv. Kasha Mizoinosav Shaladam Kriyas Yamsov. Where does the Torah give us the heter of Oichel Nefesh on Yom Tif? It's written by Shvi Shel Pesach. It says of Tzvi Hersh, why dafka by Shvi Shel Pesach? Because Shvi Shel Pesach is the Makar of Parnasa for the year. Why is it the Makar of Parnasa? Because since that's the day of Kriyas Yamsuf, and Kriyas Yamsuf goes together with Parnasa, so the Yom of Parnasa is the Yom of Kriyas Yamsuf. One last Chiddush Rabbi Fall sent me a little while ago. We have in Parshas Chukas, where Klal Yisrael wants to pass through the land of Edom, and Edom says, Edom loy savar bi, don't pass through. Pen b'acharav eitzei lekrosecha. I'm going to come at you with the sword. So Rashi says that Edom says to Klal Yisrael, you're being balei gaiva, that you have the koyach hatfila. You're using your koil hakol kol Yaakov. We're going to come out with the yadayim yidei Esav. So, frak the Zidichoiv, what do you mean? If we're using the Kol Yaakov, then the hands of Esav are tied. They can't attack us. Bisman shekol Kol Yaakov, then you're any Yadayim Yidei Esav. What are they saying? You're using the Kol Yaakov, so we're going to use the Yadayim Yidei Esav. No! The lashon of Rashi is, you're being misgoeh in the Kol Yaakov. You know when the Koyach HaTfilah works? When you daven ba'anivos. But if you're misgoeh over the Tfilah, then it doesn't counteract the Kol Yaakov. So, it's really an awesome zechus to be here by the Sar, Beis, HaZohar, somebody who's really a conduit to bring down the great well springs of Chachmas HaKabbalah. May this makom be a place of Kabbalah Satfila, Lanu, Ulechol Yisrael, Amen. One last thing, from the Munkach writes in Divrei Torah, he heard from his Rebbe, the Shinava, that someone who's in Chutz Aretz and he can't make it to Meron on Lag BaOmer, and he wants to be toyim the tam of Meron. You know, at the time of this year, it's Mamash Hapacha, the tam of Meron. If you can't make it to Meron, you should go to the Zidichoiv on your Aleph Tamos, his yard side, and you'll be margish a tam of the Tzion of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Says the Munkacha, the Remez is Gadlu Lashem, Gimel Lamed Lag BaOmer. And if you can't make it Lag BaOmer, ET stands for Yud Aleph Tamos. So there's a connection between the Zidichoiv and Rosh Hashanah. In fact, the Zidichoiv writes, or he said, that he was from the Talmidim of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So we should be zoicha to all of the hashpos of this makom.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.